Mahami Matters with Chris Adams, powered by CJA Consulting.
Welcome back to Mahami Matters, where credibility meets clarity in legal and professional services. If you missed part one of our conversation with Alec Pearson, go back and catch that episode. We explored the causes of burnout, leadership skills gaps, and what younger lawyers are looking for in their firms. We have so much to talk about that we had to split it into two parts. So today in part two, we're going to dive deeper into the four major challenges that law firms are having. Firstly, why so many law firm partners can't align on strategy and the consequences of that, the lingering stigma around coaching in legal environments, what people want from leaders and how law firm leaders can show up more effectively, and finally, how AI and automation are transforming the legal profession. So without further ado, let's dive in. Alec, thank you for joining us again for this part two.
Thank you very much for having me back, Chris.
Anytime. So yeah, like I said, we had so much to talk about in the last one that we just couldn't keep it to one. So
big area. Lots to discuss.
So much to discuss. So we should just dive in. We finished the last one by talking a little bit about coaching. And I think we kind of alluded to the fact there's a bit of a stigma around coaching. It's often seen as being a bit remedial in law firms. Why do you think that is? How is the perception changing?
It's an interesting question. And I quote a partner who said to me that they perceive coaching almost like a performance correction tool.
Right.
I kind of said to them, I says, why? Why do you say that? And what they said to me was, in the legal profession, lawyers are trained with an emphasis on perfection and expertise, and they are expected to perform under pressure. So it suggested to me that, well, if you need coaching, is that showing or proving that you've got a weakness? Why should you need coaching? There's another couple of clients I've got. It's quite interesting. Two of them are partners and one's a senior associate. And the three of them are not telling their firm that they're coaching with me. And I even had a client who we were doing a strategy day together because we were looking at strategy for his department. He actually took a day off work to work with me because he will not tell his law firm that that's what he's going through.
Why do you think they say that?
I think it's that comment from the partner that it's seen as, if you need a coach, it's seen as, well, you're weak.
Right.
You obviously can't do the job. Now, luckily, we are starting to see in many law firms that perception is starting to shift. And the reason being is that, I could maybe call them the forward-thinking law firms, actually recognize that coaching is not about fixing weak people. Actually, it's about unlocking potential. And if we look at what coaching is about and why it's so powerful, it is all about creating that confidential, focused space for the individual to vent as a starting point. And a lot of my clients say to me, Alec, we've had an hour and a half, and it was just wonderful to get all these things off my chest. I needed to speak to someone. But it's not just about venting. What coaching also enables us to do is to challenge what the client's saying. Might be through our discovery or what we've been talking about, that there are assumptions coming through. And I see a lot of this. We assume a lot of things that are typically not true. It could be about developing strategies, not just for your department or your firm, but actually about your own performance and your own well-being. So for me, coaching is a strategic tool, and it's all around development, resilience, and making and developing that better leadership.
That makes sense to me. I guess, is there still that perception of weakness though? Do you think some firms are reframing it and realizing that it is a performance of leadership asset?
Yes, we are starting to see that, but I think there's much more work needs to be done to actually explain all the benefits of coaching and what coaching does. Because the other interesting thing that I hear a lot from my legal clients is that they love the fact that I'm holding them accountable. So if we have come up with some new tasks from what we've been discussing, they know I'm going to hold them accountable for that at the next session. And it actually gives them that drive and that motivation to get things done. Now, one thing I would stress about coaching, it's not about me giving advice to a client. It's actually enabling the client to think better, to lead better, to thrive, and for them to start taking control of their own life, their own development, the way they lead, whatever it might be.
So do you think, you made a reference to venting. A firm is worried then that partners are just going to vent confidential information or, bad mouth a firm, I guess. Perhaps, this is just an idea, but do we need to try and get rid of that perception and that misunderstanding amongst law firm management to make them realize actually it's like being the manager of a football team? You're coaching them, you're teaching them what to do, but really, most of all, you're listening and helping them to make better of themselves and improve their own skills.
The key part for me, I mean, I'm an International Coaching Federation certified coach, and I follow religiously their code of ethics. And that states that all coaching sessions and discussions are 100% confidential. And my clients know from me that whatever we discuss never goes any further. Now, that gives them the opportunity to develop that trust. And what I see, as my sessions progress with each client, the trust is growing and growing and growing, and they're telling me much more about what's going on. Because one of the other things I think is that comes through in coaching, many clients might see a surface level issue, but the power of coaching is to go deeper where needed. And actually, on many occasions, what we think is causing an issue at the surface, when we dig deep, it's something completely different. Now, I need the client to have that 100% trust in me. They know it's confidential, so we can deep dive and find out what's going on. So that's what my message back to law firms would be. You're working with a certified executive coach that's accredited from the International Coaching Federation or another similar body. Part of the rules, we have to be confidential. And the power and the difference that can make for someone, for some people, some of my clients, it has been a complete change in their life, a complete change, the way of doing things. But we all need someone to talk to. We all need someone to, as we say, chew the cud with and see, what's going on. What do we need to do?
So I think that misperception or that misunderstanding is not the only misalignment that we see in law firms. It's one small part. I know that many firms struggle with alignment among partners, not just on things like this, but just business priorities, which clients they should be focusing on. The law firm model, the partner model, it's almost every man for himself or every woman for herself. And so there is, obviously, you have to prioritize your own, you have to stand up for yourself. Otherwise, nobody else will. So this comes down, I guess, to disagreements on what business goals a firm should prioritize. Can you share some examples of where you've seen this in practice?
Yeah, one of the ones I see quite a lot of, and we've had this discussion in our coaching sessions with partners, is the strategic alignment that it's missing among the partnership. Because, and in one case, in one particular partner comes to mind, all the partners are stuck about how to take the firm forward because they're all coming in with their own ideas, their own viewpoints from their particular expertise, their particular department. And in this particular case, there was a lack of assertiveness from the managing partner to, number one, get all these ideas on the table, but also think about, well, right, now we've had all these ideas, how does that translate into a vision? Why are each of you coming in with these ideas? What do we want to see from that? But certainly in my experience, I've seen that question's not being asked. So what happens is we get confusion among the partnerships. We start to get fragmentation. There is frustration with some partners that opportunities are being missed because we cannot come up with an aligned strategy for where the firm needs to go forward. And if you think about all that's going on and changing in the world, we've got to keep up to date with that. But no one, no one's taking the mantle and saying, right, I hear everyone's views. This is now what we need to do. So we've got to create that vision. Why are we saying what we're saying we want to do? We've got to build a strategic framework. And certainly one of the things my client, who was a partner, one of the things I asked him to suggest was to do a partner alignment workshop. Do it off site. Typically, we get more done off site, which is really interesting because it's a different environment. But it's all about, we sit relaxed and think, right, how do we align on strategy? What are the surface competing priorities? How are we going to build consensus? How does that link to the vision we want? It takes time, don't get me wrong, but we've got to have, it's all about driving that collaboration. It's all about, what is the legacy of this law firm? What are our values? What is our culture? And then how does that align to where we want to go going forward?
So you talked about it taking a lot of time, but I guess if you do have a framework in place when you go into that meeting, if everyone's done their job and really structured that meeting well, structured that away day well, people can put their phones away and, it's very, pulled together with a strategic mindset, then surely it can be very effective and very efficient.
It can be, but I always just put a caveat, and I say this to everyone, all my clients, and I say, okay, for example, with this particular client, right, you've had the away day, you've done all this, you've all come to agreement. But then I say, if you were to hold your decision for another 2 to 3 weeks, would that give more reflection time to then look back at what everyone's decided and think, actually, there may be something else? Or this conversation, this away day or a couple of days, I've come up with another thought. This is just what I suggest, but it's up to the client. I would rather we took a little bit longer so we get it right. Because one of the things I've seen and why I suggest this is sometimes, yes, we've got the strategy, we've done it, excellent, let's sign it off. But we've gone too fast. We haven't had a chance to think about what we did, what that strategy was. We've not time to reflect on it. So later, maybe midterm, we realize maybe we haven't done this right. We didn't actually do it properly. So for the sake of a few weeks or even a month or whatever it might be, is it better to just take your time so when you do it, you get it right?
I can see what you're saying, but I'm also going to pose to you, my experience of working with lawyers is that perfection gets in the way of just getting things done. So you really need to find that balance.
Absolutely. But again, I'll push it back again to think, if you took a couple of extra weeks to make that decision, what's the real difference? But weigh that against what would the benefits of that be?
So I guess that leads us nicely into talking about time saving and tools and what you can do. So frameworks are fantastic and coaching is obviously fantastic, but we're all looking for ways to save time. AI is the talk of the town globally. I know it's changing legal workflows, everything from document review to research to client delivery. What are firms doing well from your point of view as a business coach, and what's being missed?
Well, what you said there about legal workflows, we're definitely, particularly seeing that in the UK and UAE. And it's interesting, from one law firm I was speaking to, they've brought in AI integration and the time that they are saving. They did their own research on this, and they're seeing a pattern that AI is freeing up about 3 to 4 hours per week per lawyer.
Okay.
So they're starting to see some substantial productivity gains coming from that. However, and I put a warning on this, because What I've also seen from one firm, but I've also been hearing from others, is that maybe particularly the younger lawyers are relying on AI too much, and they're not sense checking. They're not doing any critical thinking. And someone said to me, it was a couple of months ago, they said, what we're seeing is that the AI tool, so say, for example, it's doing a contract analysis, for example. It's about 80% accurate, but there's still about 20% of work to be done. But the younger lawyers, AI comes back and says, this is the answer. And they go, oh, well, it must be right. So we're just going to sign that off. So there has to be a conversation on, number one, how are we using AI? What tools are we using? But actually, in terms of staff usage, don't become so reliant on it that you're not managing AI. And I think that's something that's really important to consider.
I've heard a similar story from a leading partner over here in the UAE at a major law firm, and she was saying the younger trainee lawyers are using AI, and yes, it's helping them to be more efficient. But part of the nature of being a trainee is that you make mistakes and you learn what's wrong and someone corrects you. When they're using AI, they can't identify the mistakes because they don't know what they don't know. They don't realize that what they're doing is a mistake, and they've got no way to sense check it. And, traditionally you would have had your more senior person doing this, and that's not happening as much. So therefore mistakes are being made, and you can't learn from your mistakes if you don't know you've made one.
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, even kind of leading on from that and thinking back to what we discussed in our last podcast, we talked about skills, but actually AI is driving another skills discussion. Because the other side on that is that we also see, and this is across generations, but there are lawyers out there that are not confident using AI tools. So they need to start to build the confidence and actually understand and think, right, how are we going to use this? And what is it I need to do to make sure that everything is accurate? Everything is what it needs to be. And this is where, again, we've got our leaders in our law firms. Just don't throw the technology in and go, great, we're going to save all these hours. But actually, what impact is this going to have on our culture? How the way we do things here is going to change, but we need to have that discussion on what that change will be.
And quality and trust, in my view, underpin everything that lawyers do. So you can't have your clients losing faith and losing trust in you because quality is dipping because of the use of AI. So it is a very difficult path to tread.
But again, that's where coaching comes in. If you think about, because again, is hearing. I mean, I'm actually working with one law firm at the moment, and this is the kind of management board, because we are bringing AI in. But I think what struck me about the beginning of our kind of conversation on this is, oh, well, we're just going to bring AI in because that makes a difference. And I went, yeah, but how? Why? How are you going to use it? What impact is that going to have on you? Thinking back to what I said earlier, how's that going to change culture? What are the skills in the law firm? So I see the whole process of AI is not just, put it in and, it's chat GPT, we can just log on and do it. Actually, to build that strategy around that and actually think, because here's the other thing, more and more tools are being developed, but which one is right for your law firm?
I can't even work out which one's right for my day-to-day use, let alone what's used for a much company.
It's such a complex area. I mean,
really
even
is.
for us, us mere mortals, we've got ChatGPT, and then there's Microsoft's version, Copilot, and then there's Grok, and there's about 10 different, I don't know, I mean, it's probably more, but, that I know of, 10 different consumer products. So what must it be like for a firm?
I guess you've got to lead from the top. So from what our discussion today and our discussion in the last episode, I think we established that the more junior lawyers, the more and the mid-size law firms, the ones in the middle, basically the middle management, they are looking up to their leaders, and what do they want to see from their senior leaders in their firms?
Interestingly enough, in January, Gallup did a worldwide survey on what do followers want from leaders? I mean, this just wasn't for the legal sector, it was across all sectors. And what was really interesting and striking about that is that the number one need is hope.
Hope.
You know, where are we going? Why are we doing what we're doing? How, you know, from a legal perspective, if we think about hope, giving your lawyers a reason to believe in the firm's future. Celebrating progress. It's not just about perfection. Reinforcing that change and challenge and growth are part of the journey. That is the first thing that came out on that survey, which I thought was so interesting. And because for years before, a lot of people said it was all about trust, but trust is now coming in at number 2. Because the other thing that our followers are looking for, and if we think about this from a legal perspective, they're looking for leaders to be transparent about the firm's performance, be transparent about decisions, directions. What about promotion? What is the promotion opportunities there? How do we get promoted? There's a lot of people are talking about our associates and senior associates. Do they really understand how to get to partnership? Is there the development plan to get them effectively there? And if you think about what I discussed in the last podcast, only 25% of young lawyers want to be partner. So what are we doing about that? What else could we be doing? But again, trust, and thinking about what I said there, that, transparency, what's going on? What is that path going forward? And then the other key area there, the third one, was stability. They want clarity. They want steadiness. And what they want from a legal perspective, so we think about managing partners, they want them to communicate regularly, make decisions that are thoughtful, stop being so reactive on decisions made. And interestingly enough, the key area that my partner clients come to me with on coaching is that they say, I am so reactive and I'm not proactive, and I've got to change that. So they know it's got to be done, and then we work on how we actually change that. And then the final part, what followers are looking for, is compassion. If we think about for managing partners, it's recognizing the pressures that lawyers face. So checking in with them, making sure they're okay, supporting those managing personal challenges, particularly along, demanding workloads, backing initiatives that promote well-being. This is the key, the kind of starting point, I would suggest, that our senior partners or managing partners need to focus on, because those are the top 4 needs of followers.
So it's hope, trust, stability, and
compassion.
And compassion. So this needs to come from the top. How can managing partners model these traits during these uncertain times we're experiencing at the moment?
It goes back to, it's all about leadership. What is the message? How are you, this is a self-reflection question to think, how are you running your law firm? What is your biggest interest? Now, I know partners who say, well, it's all about clients. Fine. But I'm also saying, but what about the people in the law firm? Because associates and senior associates have particularly said to me, they don't feel they're part of this law firm. Then people at the top are not interested in us. They're not there for us. So it all comes down to, first part of that is leadership. Because if you think about the future, we think about what I discussed in the last episode about, Gen Z, changing wants and needs. The future of a law firm for me is not about just legal brilliance. It's about how well we lead our people. So we need to invest in leadership, but it's not just at the top. For me, it's got to be throughout the firm. We've got to think, what are the skills within our firm that we don't even know are there? We've not even checked to see, in some respects, particularly on non-technical skills, we've never done that skills matrix. What is that potential that we could unlock within our particular law firm? And then when we know that, how does that then take us forward? So it's an interesting actually backtrack to the strategy for the law firm. Personally, I'm gobsmacked when I ask senior leaders, partners, not just in law firms, but across professional services, tell me about the skills in your department, in your organization. Have you done a skills matrix? No, they don't know. A lot of them don't know. So how can you go forward when you don't know when you don't know what you've got under you?
So we've covered a lot in the last couple of podcasts. There's so many nuggets of information, of good tips. It all comes down, I think, to needing a good coach. I'm sure you'd agree. But
Absolutely. To come in and give an outsider's point of view, reduce the fog, make it clearer.
Okay, so if you had one message for law firm leaders listening today, what would it be?
It links back to what I just mentioned. Without doubt, how are you going to lead your people well? It's not just about legal brilliance. It's all about your staff, a people-first strategy.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Alec. That's much appreciated and sage advice for any leader out there, not just law firm leaders, but any leader out there. And inevitably, you all end up being leaders in one way or another, whether we're parents or leaders in work, whatever it may be. It's really important. So thank you so much for joining us, Alec. Really much appreciated.
Thank you for having me, Chris. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you very much.
And thanks to our audience for joining us on Mahami Matters, brought to you, of course, by CJA Consulting. Again, my thanks to Alec Pearson for taking part in our leadership deep dive over the last couple of episodes. We have looked at a lot. We looked at partner misalignment. We looked at the stigma of coaching. We looked at the rise of AI in legal practice. And to me, it's clear that law firms are navigating more complexity, but also more opportunity than ever if they plan it out well. So if this episode or the last one sparked a new idea or reflection for you, please do subscribe, leave us a review, and even better, share it with someone in your network who'd really benefit. So for today, I'm Chris Adams. This is Mahami Matters. Stay informed, stay empowered, and keep building that leadership your team deserves. Thank you for joining us on Mahami Matters. If you found today's episode valuable, subscribe and connect with me to stay updated. Join me again soon as we continue to bring you credible insights, practical strategies, and trusted advice to empower your professional journey. I'm Chris Adams. Until next time, stay informed and stay empowered.